Welcome to Unit 4.2. In this unit, we're going to learn how to count using pivot tables. In our previous lesson, we looked at the sum of the annual package, or you could even look at the average, the max and min. But you're not always working with values. You're often counting how many of something, and that's usually a text field. For example, I might want to know how many of each race there is, how many people in the London office, for example, and so you wouldn't be able to use sum on those particular columns. So let's do a count pivot table. So we're going to start off by going insert pivot, and we're going to highlight on the columns once again, and I'm going to say new worksheet and OK. And remember what we learned in the previous lesson about turning on tabular view. So let's go to design, report layout, and tabular. So as I mentioned before, whatever you're counting, summing, averaging will go in the values area. So let's drag race in there because that's what we're counting, and I want to know what their department is. Now if you look at the report, there really does look like there's something wrong with it. It's not telling me what their race is, and that's specifically why I'm pulling this particular report. So something to always bear in mind, whenever you count, you need to put that same field again in for headings. So let's drag race into column, and that report now makes total sense. I could obviously put that in row as well, but I think that's short enough to put into column. So whenever you count something, you need to put it into both. Obviously we need to turn off the blanks now, so again we go to the filter, switch off the blank, and there's our report. Let's go back to our database and count how many of each job title, for example. Insert pivot table, highlight from A to O, OK, into design, change our report layout to tabular, and this time we are counting job title. And because it's text, it defaults to count of job title, and I want to know what their race is. And if you have a look now, it's not telling me what their job title is. So as I mentioned before, you need to put the job title in again. And there you have your job titles and your counts. Let's turn off blank. And there you have it. Also, if I wanted to add gender in here, for example, remember I said it's better to stack in row rather than in column. And there we have our gender, and as learned before, you need to go to one of the totals and click, and you can bold it and shade it just to make it a bit more readable. Now what is inevitably going to happen is you're going to present this report and someone's going to say to you, I want to see the detail behind it. Why is that figure so high? What makes up that figure? And you have something in Excel pivots called drill down. So in other words, if I wanted to see who these 8 accountants were, I could just double click on the 8. It will drill down to the actual details that make up that number. Your report is still there in sheet 6. If I wanted to see who these 25 or who these 7 male African males design assistants are, double click, drills down to the detail. And this is very, very handy because obviously that's going to happen. If you've got a total figure and something looks like it's wrong with it, you'd want to see the detail behind it. And if you know how to drill down, you don't have to go back to the database and sort and filter and search for that particular element. So just to recap, when you count, you remember to put it into values, but put it somewhere else for your headings as well.